Some moments in life don't announce themselves. They don't come wrapped in fanfare or arrive on golden timelines. They slip in quietly, almost invisibly, disguised as something ordinary, a folded piece of paper, a handwritten sentence, a single act of kindness from a stranger who had absolutely no reason to care. And sometimes, the person who thinks they are giving the gift ends up being the one who receives it most. Marcus Dean had not slept properly in 11 months. Not since the night the hospital called and told him that the woman he had loved for 9 years was gone. Not since he held his 4-year-old daughter, Lily, in his arms at the funeral and promised her, through tears he could not control, that he would be enough. That promise became the only thing holding him together, a thin, invisible thread between surviving and completely falling apart. He worked at a small warehouse on the outskirts of Dayton, Ohio. The pay was modest. The hours were long. But the job existed, and that was more than Marcus could say for a lot of things in his life after that terrible night. Every morning he woke up before dawn, packed Lily a lunch with a little note tucked inside, something simple, something warm, like, "You're the sunshine I didn't know I needed," and drove her to his mother's house before the sun had fully risen. His mother, Ruth, never complained. She never once made him feel like a burden. She just opened the door, hugged Lily, and whispered, "We're going to have a wonderful day." But even Ruth couldn't fix the hollow feeling that lived inside Marcus's chest. The grief wasn't loud anymore. It had become quiet. It had become the weight he carried every single day without anyone around him noticing. One Tuesday morning in late October, Marcus came home from his shift exhausted, his hands calloused and his back aching. He dropped his keys on the kitchen counter and almost walked past the mailbox, the way he did most days. But something made him stop. Maybe it was the cream-colored envelope sitting on top of the pile, thicker than the usual bills and junk mail. Maybe it was the small logo stamped in the corner, a logo he vaguely recognized from television commercials, from billboards he passed on the highway. It belonged to Meridian Solutions, one of the largest tech companies in the country. And the name on the return address was not a department or a mailing center. It was a person. It was Daniel Frost, the CEO. Marcus stood in his kitchen for a full minute, turning the envelope over in his hands, certain he had the wrong mail. He opened it carefully anyway. The letter was handwritten, not typed, not generated by some corporate template. Handwritten, in ink, in careful, deliberate strokes. "Dear Marcus," it began. "My name is Daniel Frost. You don't know me, and I don't know you, not really. But I know a little about what you're going through, and I want you to know that you are not invisible. I have been following a story about single parents in this country who are doing everything right and still being swallowed up by a system that wasn't built for them. I found your name through a community outreach program in Dayton. I don't want to fix your life, no one can do that. But I want to be your gift. Whatever that looks like, whatever you need, I am here. Not as a company, not as a brand, as a person. Please call me." Marcus read the letter 3 times. Then he sat down on his kitchen floor, not the couch, not the chair, but the cold linoleum floor, and cried. Not because of the offer. Not because of the money that might come with it. He cried because someone had seen him. After 11 months of feeling like a ghost moving through the motions of life, someone had looked closely enough to notice he was there. He didn't call right away. It took him 4 days. He spent those 4 days turning the letter over in his mind, wondering if it was real, wondering if it was some kind of trick, wondering if a man like Daniel Frost, a man worth billions, a man who appeared on magazine covers and spoke at conferences in front of thousands, could truly mean what he wrote. But on Friday evening, after tucking Lily into bed and watching her fall asleep with the small stuffed rabbit she carried everywhere, Marcus picked up the phone and dialed the number at the bottom of the letter. Daniel answered on the second ring. The conversation lasted over an hour. Daniel didn't lead with money. He didn't ask Marcus what he needed in terms of bills or expenses. Instead, he asked questions. Real questions. He asked what Marcus dreamed about for Lily. He asked what kind of man Marcus wanted to become. He asked what kept him going on the days when everything felt impossible. And Marcus, surprising even himself, answered honestly. He told Daniel about the morning notes he left in Lily's lunchbox. He told him about his mother's quiet strength. He told him about the nights he sat on the edge of Lily's bed and listened to her breathe, because the sound of it was the only thing that made the world feel like it was still spinning. Daniel listened to every single word. When Marcus finally asked the question that had been burning in his mind since the letter arrived, "Why me?" Daniel's answer stopped him cold. "Because I was you," Daniel said. 22 years ago, I was a single father in a town nobody had ever heard of, working a job that paid me just enough to keep the lights on. Someone did something for me that I never forgot. A stranger. A woman at a gas station who paid for my groceries when I didn't have enough in my account to cover them. She didn't know my story. She didn't know I had a daughter at home. She just looked at me and said, "Someone's got to start the chain somewhere." I have spent the last 2 decades trying to be that chain. Over the following weeks, Daniel didn't write a check and disappear. He showed up. Not physically, he lived on the other side of the country, but he showed up in ways that mattered. He set up a college fund for Lily. He connected Marcus with a job training program that led to a position at a company with better pay, better hours, and health insurance that actually covered what it needed to cover. He sent books to the house, not for Marcus, but for Lily. Children's books about brave girls and kind hearts and the quiet power of believing in yourself. But the moment that changed everything, the moment that left Daniel Frost, a man who had built an empire from nothing, completely speechless, came on a Wednesday afternoon in November. Daniel had called Marcus to check in, the way he had been doing every few days. Marcus answered, and before Daniel could say a word, Marcus spoke first. "I need to tell you something," he said. His voice was steady, but there was something beneath it, something raw and real. "You said you wanted to be my gift. And you have been. More than you know. But I need you to understand something, Daniel. You didn't save me. You reminded me that I was already worth saving. And that is the kind of gift that changes everything." There was silence on the other end of the line. A long, heavy silence. And then Daniel Frost, the man who could command a boardroom, who could negotiate deals worth millions, who had spoken in front of stadiums full of people, did something he had not done in years. He let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding, and he said, very quietly, "Thank you, Marcus. I think you just saved me, too." Because that is the truth about kindness that most people never discover. It is not a one-way road. It is not a transaction. It is a bridge. And sometimes the person who builds it is the same person who walks across it. Sometimes the gift you give becomes the gift you receive. And sometimes, in the quietest, most unexpected moments, two strangers find in each other exactly what they were both desperately searching for. Proof that in a world that so often feels cold and indifferent, someone out there was looking, and someone out there cared enough to reach out a hand. And that, more than anything, is what it means to be human.